Welcome to another episode of Verdicts and Victories, where we look behind the scenes, behind the curtain of personal injury law. My name is Brandon Smith. Thank you for being a part of what we're doing and talking about what actually happens in these catastrophic, horrible personal injury cases where we have the honor of representing people that get hurt really bad. Some of my favorite clients were within this county, Gwinnett County, Georgia. Husband and wife. Husband was backing out at night of his house. He was on the way to do some honeydew errands, go to the store, and provide for his family, dinner for the night. So as he was backing out of his driveway in his personal residence, he looked both ways. Coast was clear. He backs out, takes control of the road in his neighborhood, and only to look up and see a commercial motor vehicle truck, actually a FedEx delivery truck, barreling down his neighborhood road in reverse at a high speed. He freezes, fumbles, tries to get out of the way, can't do it. FedEx truck in reverse T-bones our client, and his body is shaken, horrible damage. He's in a loss, he's shaken up, hits his head, causes massive upper body damage, and he ultimately tears in the wreck tears his rotator cuff and has to require a shoulder surgery. Shaken up, doesn't know what to do. Neighbors come out, and his wife comes out as well, tries to identify the driver. Turns out the driver was actually driving the truck for a friend of his. So he wasn't actually a FedEx driver. Had FedEx credentials, had FedEx logo on his truck, and we get in on the case. Police respond to the scene. We get on the case a couple months later, but police created a report, took down the driver's name. Driver was actually from Jamaica, did not have a valid Georgia or United States license, and was operating this multi-thousand pound truck on Georgia roads making deliveries. We dig in, find out what was going on that night. Well, driver from Jamaica was actually driving for his sick friend who couldn't make the delivery routes. How does that happen? Well, he has to use his credentials, right, to go load up a truck, to go find, the nearest FedEx outpost to load up the truck to make the deliveries. He does that. He goes and uses the credentials of his friend, gets the truck loaded up, and then starts making deliveries for his friend, unhired by the company and completely without the authority to do it, just to get the job done for his friend. Imagine in that context, when you get struck by somebody that does not necessarily even work for the other company that you got struck by, what do? There's confusion, there's hurt, there's physical injuries, there's all kinds of questions about, am I going to get to go back to work? Am I not going to get back to go back to work? Our client in this situation was a school bus driver, one of the most honorable professions that there is. And because of this event, he had to miss like 18 months of driving kids to and from school, which was his passion. Those touch points every morning, every afternoon, blessing, encouraging kids, that's what he loved to do, lived to do. He couldn't do it for 18 months. So those were the questions that he was having. My firm gets the case, we start digging in. We start figuring out the relationships. It turns out that the truck was actually not a FedEx truck. FedEx wasn't involved at all. It was bought or leased by another company that was taking the deliveries, kind of a fly-by-night company that was taking deliveries for different orders throughout, the county. So we actually follow the guy that was the driver to Jamaica. After the wreck, he said, I'm out of here. He skips town, goes to Jamaica. We have private investigators that we put on him, found him. We also contacted the entity, the logo, which they ultimately weren't involved. But then finally, we got the company that was involved, who was effectively a contractor that was servicing orders. They were using a truck, though, that still had the label. And that's an important point. A lot of times, it's called logo liability in Georgia. A lot of times, there are these trucks that have logos on them that haven't been repainted. They're just being used. They're in the stream of commerce, and they don't necessarily belong to the entity that they represent on the side of the truck. Sounds crazy, it happens. So we dig into the case, we ultimately find that the owner of the vehicle doesn't have insurance. The guy that was sick has insurance. The guy that was in Jamaica has no insurance. One of the contractors that was tied to what we found based on months and months and months of digging, thankfully did have insurance to cover this loss. And so after literally years of fighting these battles to understand who the parties were involved in literally just bringing a package to this neighborhood, we ultimately were able to recover a six-figure amount that's confidential, I can't talk about, but against one of the entities involved. Now, the driver that had insurance, he had minimum limits of insurance. We actually asked his insurance company, pay us. Our client had, bad surgery. He missed a ton of work. Please pay us. The insurance company chose not to represent or defend that driver that was sick because it was a commercial vehicle on the policy. So the guy that entrusted this 1,000-pound commercial motor vehicle to his friend who lived in Jamaica was uninsured at that time. We believed that he was insured, and we're actually still fighting that battle. So when that happens, we served a lawsuit on that owner of the vehicle that entrusted the vehicle to his friend, and he goes into what's called default because he fails to answer. He has no lawyer to defend him. And effectively, we set the case for trial. After no answer, we entered into evidence what needed to be entered into evidence, and we tried the case in Metro Atlanta County State Court. I brought both of my clients, wonderful people. They came, we appeared, they gave testimony, we entered exhibits and everything that went into the case. And ultimately, we returned, at a bench trial, we returned a $1.25 million verdict. That verdict, we are in the process of enforcing. I believe we'll be successful in enforcing that. So we got two bites at the apple, so to speak. We got both insurance money to help cover the damages that were caused and some, and then also we're enforcing a seven-figure judgment now for failure to defend as we move forward in that case. So these cases are extremely complex. They can be. They involve multiple parties often, especially in the situations with a commercial motor vehicle, and the relationships between the driver, the entity, what is happening literally at the time of the incident, all of that matters. And so it's important to get someone that's done that, someone with the experience, someone that knows how to dig, turn over stones until no other stones can be turned over. We had people in Jamaica. At one point we had people in New York trying to make a right out of a wrong. That's our mission. That's what we do, is we try to make a right out of a wrong no matter what. And so that's what we were able to do in this case, and ultimately the judge agreed with us, gave my clients a seven-figure verdict, and we were really blessed to be able to fight and pursue the right thing. And I'll never forget, after that trial, they just expressed so much gratitude. They said to me, "You believed in us. You were." My client, who was the bus driver, he said, "You were a dog on the bone on this case. You did not let up." And we didn't let up, and we're still not letting up in the case. So really honored to represent that family. That was a recent one, and blessed to get to do what we do.